Hello and welcome to episode 6 of Smoke and Burn. I'm Casey Gressive, and today I'm joined by Spiro. You're going to have to help me with your last name.
Morogiannis.
Spiro with the long last name. It's kind of like Becky with the good hair. So Spiro is a independent specialist that covers part of the Oklahoma City area. And Spiro, how long have you been in a sales role with BG?
I'm actually going on just about 3.5 years. I started up in Tulsa, did independent and some dealer training, and then about 2 years now in Oklahoma City.
Okay. And what did you do before that?
Actually, my background, I've got a variety of automotive background. I actually started back in high school actually doing fabricated roll cages for a BMW shop up in Bow, New Hampshire, of all places. And transitioned into parts and service with an independent group up in Maine when I was going to college. And I eventually ended up running their headquarters store for, a few years at the time I was with that company. So I've had a chance to kind of, thankfully work my way up the ranks, the parts side, the service, and eventually running a service department. I transitioned out of that, actually took a little bit of a break from automotive, moved to Oklahoma to take a job in energy where I actually did procurement and purchasing. So I had a chance to see, financial operations from the other side of the desk, just so, cost of goods, handling contractors. And a lot of that experience for about 3.5 years really helped my current role now to getting guys to understand, the money side of the business, not just from being a former service manager, but also seeing, what goes into projecting out your financials, cash flow management. And after that job, I actually worked with a Ford dealer in Tulsa, and then eventually came on with BG.
Man, so you've done a lot of how old are you?
32.
Okay, all right, same age. So, man, you've done a lot of different things in that amount of time.
Stayed busy, man, for sure. Stayed busy.
Now, I don't mean this as a slight, but would you consider yourself kind of a Euro car nerd?
Just a little bit. And what I mean by a little bit, like an unhealthy amount, yes. Yeah, I love the Euros, man. It's the complexity, it's the quality, it's I think it's the challenge, to be honest. So many guys are afraid to take on a Euro project, and I'm like, come on, what? Just one? Let's go. I want more than that. So,
has there ever been one that you bought and just regretted?
Oh yeah, every BMW I bought, every one of them. Every one of them. So.
It's like everybody had that friend in high school that was like, oh man, I got this, 1998 5 Series BMW I've been looking at, and you're like, don't do it. And then they buy it and it's just a money pit.
Feel like if you enjoy being broke, that's the perfect car. Perfect car. Yeah.
No, that's the story of my life with motorcycles. It's just on a smaller scale.
Man, it's fun because you get to learn so much about the quirkiness of the Euros because, they are definitely over-engineered. So like you would think, all right, you have a basic oil filter housing like most vehicles. These ones are coolant fed. They leak in, multiple different places, which causes potential. There's all these possible scenarios from something that on a domestic you don't even have to mess with. But it's come in handy because my passion for Euros has really helped in this role actually as a BG rep, because so many guys are afraid of them. And that's actually how we've tied in a lot of our oil and a lot of the platinum service stuff, especially on the European market, because now what guys were once afraid to say, all right, I don't want to put the wrong oil in the wrong thing, or do I have to pull an intake to scrub valves? Those questions have been answered with something we offer. And it's just opened up the whole door of opportunity in that niche market.
Nice. And we'll get into some of that stuff as we go along, because you've done some really cool things in some of your shops. And just to kind of set the table here, though, you took over the territory that you're in now when?
It would have been March 1st, 2018. So just under 2 years ago.
And at the time, what was it selling per month?
Yeah, the last couple of years, so 2017, it looks like the territory had done just about $380,000 in sales. 2016, I think it was right around 350, and it was about 300 in 20 the year before that. So I came in March 1st of 18, so that was kind of my starting point from there, up against 380,000, which was the top it's ever done. So
Nice. And where are you at now?
finished 2018. So in 10 months we managed 384,000. So we just edged out 2017 with about 10 months worth of work. And if all finishes and falls into place, 2019 we should crack 660,000 this year.
Man, good for you. That's
Thank
awesome.
you, man. Yeah, it's been fun, man. People, it's been a blast.
And part of why, the discussions that you and I have had in the past couple of months here has to do with some unique takes on the business that you have, and some of the ways that you've tackled things in a really creative way in your territory. What's been some things that have been instrumental in your growth?
I'll tell you, man, going into it, especially a new territory, we've been told this our whole lives as kids, as teenagers, as adults, learn from other people's examples. And I can't stress that enough. If you're a new guy going into a territory, or say you're an existing rep that's taken over a new territory, listen to your customers, man. Listen to your shops and what their feedback was. What did the previous guy do that they didn't care for, or use your conversation as a feedback tool to be able to kind of fine tune your business a little bit. And I remember my first month in Oklahoma City after coming down from Tulsa. And the previous guy did a great job, actually. He was there 26 years, did a very good job. Guys have known him for longer than I've been alive, at that point. And what happens is a lot of guys are saying, we wouldn't mind seeing somebody a little bit more frequently. We're only seeing, somebody, or our previous guy but every 3 months or once a month. It just, a lot of the feedback was, hey, we're craving more in-shop interaction. And I'm like, yeah, let's get this done. We'll do it. And the feedback I got from people, it was, and again, he did a great job, but he was a one-man show. So you have to pick and choose how you delegate, how you visit, the time that you spend at your visits. And I made the decision to say, in order to do this, I've got to bring on a full-time person. I've got to bring on somebody to help me, with the restocks, the delivery, so I can free myself up to do exactly what my shops are craving, are begging for me to do. And that's what we did. So about 4 months into the territory, I took a little leap of faith. I'd saved up some money, and I said, all right, I got enough to cover some help for the rest of the year. And that's when the floodgates just opened up at that point, because now, instead of having to do restocks at the same time as trainings, I'm dedicated 100% to going out there and training, coaching, educating, but not just on BG, but on the entire aspect of the business from my experience, prior to BG. So I'd be able to go in and now you're forming not only a friendship, a partnership, but you're now like a personal consultant to the guys, because you can have real shop talk with these guys and not be worrying about, okay, hey, I got to hit the road in 10 minutes for my next stop. It took all that out of the picture so I could focus on business development. And that's exactly what we did.
Man, so you went into these stores that have been dealing with BG for a long time. I imagine that a lot of them had never really viewed BG as a business consultant / partner. I mean, is that fair to say?
I would say a fair amount of them. I mean, obviously your best accounts, the guys that have been with us the longest, I mean, they get it. They know what we bring to the table, but it's how do you take that ta-da moment, that light bulb going off, and share that with everybody else. And that's what I used. I mean, we've had some guys some shops in the territory that have been 25 plus year customers and love our stuff, knew exactly what we brought to the table. And I would use their example to guys that are up and coming to say, hey, this is what we're able to achieve, but not because I'm asking you guys to sell a bunch of cans, and I'm not asking you to do my job for me, but I want to show you guys what you can do with this. Being an independent only territory, LPP is a phenomenal tool, but oftentimes we're not able to capture that initial customer at that mileage. And that's where I started getting creative with how to approach different things. How do you create a market? How do you give everybody the same ammunition and see how they use it? And then that's where it turned into such a spectacular thing.
So I've got a new sales rep that's taken over an independent territory that really had a ton of accounts in it, a lot of long-term accounts, and we're about a week and a half into working through this territory. And what we're finding, I think, is that there's a lot of these guys that like BG, and they stock a little of this, little of that, but they don't view us as a consultative business partner,
Yeah, yeah.
and that's just never been our role. So how do you, if you're attacking like a big territory with a lot of accounts like that, how did you determine where to best spend your time to get fast results? Like, how did you weed through accounts to determine who were the candidates that you wanted to focus on initially?
Well, that's the thing. I had an idea. Obviously, you can tell who's been a producer in the past and who hasn't. But I'm like, I'm not going to limit opportunity to just a handful of guys that are already getting it. I want to actually give the same opportunity to everybody because, our shops that are top producing guys, great BG shops, they were once that little guy. And so my whole thought process was, I want to find out what retail pricing is for a lot of our shops. Where are guys selling services? What kind of hours are they billing into stuff? And that was really my first major undertaking, was to just go around to different parts of my territory, my market, and just find out where guys are selling stuff for. And I actually found an alarming amount of inconsistency, which is actually a good thing, because what it allowed us to do, or excuse me, allowed me to do, is to go in and gather that data and say, you know what? I noticed that we got guys selling, an air fuel induction service, a 2902. One shop is selling it for $109, and the shop literally 300 yards down the street selling it for $179. So where's the inconsistency? So I took, I'd say it was about a 6-week undertaking, this project, to go around and talk to guys and say, hey man, where are you pricing these at? Where, where do you want to be with things? And the feedback I got was, I don't really know where to sell this stuff at. I'm not really sure what a good retail range is. I don't know if I'm too expensive, I'm too low. So that was about, I would say, a good 65% of the territory had those questions. So what I did is, I talked with other reps, guys that have been doing it a long time, and said, hey, let's talk about, what do you guys recommend for, build hour? Let's say an air fuel induction service. Do you guys do an hour, 0.8? Where's your labor rate? Everyone's like, an hour is a solid gig, for the most part. Perfect. So what I did is I also did some homework and research on Oklahoma City market shop labor rates. Your Edmond, your Yukon, Mustang area, they're typically going to be a little bit higher up. There's some other parts in town there that are under 100. So what I did is I created, with every one of our services, a labor guide for shops. And it gives default pricing. It gives a suggested retail range of services, and then a formula that actually breaks it down based on the most common sold pricing. So in that column, I have, hey, I noticed that we sell, a 2902 air intake service. The most common pricing I'm seeing is $159.95, that parts and labor. So based on that price, I built a formula and then gave like a high and a low of that market. So what I did is I compiled all that information, built an Excel sheet with every one of our services. We're talking like the different, oil change options, all the major services, diesel, transmission, whatever you can imagine, it's on the sheet. And what I did is I built the service guide off of a $100 effective labor rate, which in history's past, it's been a little bit lower. But this gave me a chance to say, all right, we're bringing more value to the table. I'm going to establish a little bit of a market guide. And with that completed, I gave a copy to every single one of my shops over the next 6 months, because we had some pricing stuff that we had to get worked out and make sure everyone's on the same page. And it's taken some time, but I have everybody in the territory now 100% on the same pricing. There's no special exceptions. There's no favoritism. I want to make sure it's an equal playing field for everybody. And that took a little bit of work, but with that Excel sheet, what it does, you put that in front of people and they say, oh man, I'm leaving a little bit of money on the table, or oh my gosh, I've been charging too much for this transmission service. And what it does is it opens up their eyes to the potential of what we bring to the table. So on that same sheet, I also built, based on that most common pricing, I built a labor profit and parts labor matrix. So the guys can actually look at it and say, okay, based on this pricing, this is how much my store makes. And then of course, they pay their technicians out of that hourly billed rate. So it created an entire market guide, which actually helps set the pricing for the Oklahoma City market. And also guys that were just doing, say, air fuel services, a couple cans of 44K, small volume stuff, they were able to see what else we brought to the table. And you could see their eyes just bugging out of their head. They're like, I had no idea you guys offered this. Oh, man, you guys do cooling system services? Do you do machinery? Next thing you know, these conversations are turning into possibilities. And now these guys are doing these services.
Man, that's cool because it's like that accomplishes so many different things for you because, for one thing, it allows you to get it's a simple touch point on the business side of things that doesn't require them to hand over a lot of information to you, but it's a way that you can instantly establish some credibility. Like you've helped them with a problem right off the bat that they didn't even know that they had.
And also,
so not instant
just
business credibility,
Absolutely, man. And not just that, but also opening their eyes to everything else that we do. So that kind of took things to the next level because I'm like, all right, if I'm getting this kind of response off of just really something to make their job a little bit more convenient, a little bit more easier, I want to compile a little bit of everything for these guys to be able to say, all right, well, hey, here's a warranty guide, or I say warranty, a coverage guide. Ray Carter came up with arguably the best document I've ever seen this company ever put out. And it's a profitability playbook that we build for our shops. And it talks about everything that we do for these guys. Guys, we do training, we do social media, we do equipment, we do, you name it. And it summarizes what BG brings to the table. And so with a combination of that Excel sheet, a couple, our LPP guide, our oil change menu guide, I put together a small packet paired up with a fresh, brand new paper catalog. And every shop got one. And I said, I'm just going to buy a couple cases of catalogs because I don't know when the last time guys have seen some of our updated stuff. Because sometimes, you can talk about things, but they're busy. This way they have something to thumb through. And I'd see guys bust out a Sharpie and start circling different services they're interested in doing. And next thing you know, we're in there doing demos and they're now selling those services.
That's impressive, mostly because I didn't realize Ray Carter could read.
He reads very well. I'm impressed.
Sorry, man.
Ray. He's cool with it, I hope.
Oh, he's fun. So the other thing that you and I have talked quite a bit about is an area that I've really struggled to find a good way to apply it. But you are an enormous fan of the On the Road program.
Absolutely. It is. It's funny because we always have like our inside joke at BG that we're the best kept secret. We're the technician's best kept secret. And I'm like, guys, I'm kind of tired of being a secret. If there's something so good, I think everybody should know about it, So OTR is so On the Road for the guys, OTR is hands down the best, most valuable retention resource you can use in our business. It's sometimes we have to back up just a second and not necessarily look at the products, but look at what we can do with the products. I refer to our stuff as the catalyst. It's the retention is great. People come in asking that use our BG, but what if we could give our customers a little thank you for doing business and say, hey, you know what? Come back and see us here at, Joe's Lube Shop, every time you come in for your service, and I'll make sure you always have roadside assistance. I'll make sure that if you get a flat tire, we're fixing it or replacing that tire for you just because you did an oil change using BG at our shop. And that's the mentality I took, because given that I'm an independent only, I do have a lot of higher mile cars out there. So I had to get very creative outside of LPP because not everyone's eligible. I would say I still probably have about a 20 to 25%, eligibility, if not more, but not everyone's necessarily interested in that. But if you can come in for a service and a can of MOA or 44K, goes in, and now all of a sudden you have a 6-month roadside assistance, you're going to go back to that shop. And let me ask you, Casey, if you went in, say you didn't know anything about BG, checking in at, your lube shop of choice, and they said, hey, we've got a fuel treatment that's going to help improve your fuel economy. It's going to make your car run better. We want to make sure it's staying running better. By the way, it comes with 6 months of roadside assistance that also covers tires. It covers emergency hotel stays. It covers, you name it, and it's only going to cost you, $29.95 to do that. Would you be interested in something like that?
Absolutely. And I would imagine that for, less experienced advisors, it's easier to talk about roadside assistance than it is the ins and outs of the product.
Absolutely. And one thing that we've had a lot of traction with, and this is something all the guys that listen to this program, guys, I'm telling you, look deep into our catalogs, because we have some stuff that is an absolute hidden gem. I do a lot with MOA. I do a ton with 44K, but this year's really surprising product was actually CF5, believe it or not. And I tell guys, here's the thing. It's not here to replace 44K, but what it is, again, it's a catalyst. So if I can package something for guys to say, you know what, I can sell you, this is talking to the shop owners, I can sell you a can of an extremely good fuel treatment that's also a stabilizer, an ethanol prevention, and also a can of and a roadside assistance card. You're looking at a total cost of about $11 to $11.50. I'm going to ask you to sell that at $19.95. And this is my theory behind it. So all of a sudden, guys are thinking, okay, we're talking about a good margin in an item. Customers are getting a phenomenal product for the money because of its 3-in-1 ability. But now what you're doing is saying, hey, we have a program here. We have something where we can say, hey, for $20, I'm treating your fuel system, and I've got you covered for the next 6 months if something happens to you and your family when you're on the road. So when you're high, say they got a 100,000 mile car, they're out of LPP, they're at least getting some benefit and they're getting some value on top of that $20 purchase. And that's been a home run with my quick lube shops, because they don't always have time to go over mileage intervals. They don't always have time to run even a can of EPR, as much as I hate saying that. But you know how easy it is to dump a can of product in the fuel tank and say, hey, by the way, thanks for your business. Here's 6 months of roadside. We'll see you at your next oil change to keep you going on that. And next thing you know, you've got lube shops that are able to turn a couple cases of this product a week, and it's great profitability to the shops and a phenomenal value to the customers. So that's been my cutting hidden weapon, if you will, going for lube shops.
Awesome. So you mostly your focus on CF5, I'm sure, has to do just with trying to maintain a certain retail price for the program, right?
Exactly. It's I still sell more 44K than I do CF5, because 44K is our staple. That is, we all know how legendary of a product it is, but not everybody, customer wise, and this is where kind of my procurement mind kind of kicks in a little bit. Not everyone may understand the value that's being given at, say, $27.95, but at $19.95, $20, I'll try that. That's not a bad deal. And they realize what they're getting. What it is, it's a gateway to the rest of our services, kind of like an AutoPour MOA program is. It's people that establish these sell more service because it's embedded in the DNA of the shop. And that's what I'm doing. It becomes a very high value price point item that people can still give to the customer, and they're getting a lot of bang for the buck, because I don't believe in selling something that someone can't benefit from. But if I can get them something that's going to make the shop good money, the customers get a great service out of it, they get a peace of mind with roadside, that's also going to bring customers back for more services. And that's the whole idea, is I want them coming back after tasting BG one time and saying, hey, this is a really good deal. I got to keep this going.
Absolutely. Now for on the road, you really just need a BG part number of some sort on the repair order in order for you to use that program. That's
it. That's the beauty of it.
And one of the things that we've talked about over the past month or so here is some of the things that you're doing with our full synthetic oils in your shops. Can you kind of tell us a little bit about that?
Absolutely. So actually, to lead into that, you absolutely hit the nail on the head with a BG part number. So imagine, before digging into the quality of oil, imagine for a second you can provide a solution to a shop to say, hey guys, we can not only reduce your inventory because how our oil is constructed, but now because it's a BG part number on that invoice, your customers are now eligible for roadside assistance. So let's build a package that's going to cover your synthetic oil needs, but also now comes standard with 6 months of roadside assistance. So that was a huge eye opener for guys to say, man, so you're saying I don't have to sell anything extra for that? I said, you can always offer, but at the worst case, you have this to fall back on, your basic synthetic oil package. What that does is it helps take a lot of the guesswork, I shouldn't say the guesswork, but the fear of upselling out of the question. More and more cars these days are coming factory with synthetic. They're calling for these crazy long oil change intervals. So I said, all right, let's get creative with this. Let's figure out a way to be competitive price wise, but also establish more of a market. So our synthetic oil, you guys, for you, those of you out there that have not tried playing around with 737, our 5W30, it is hands down the best kept secret in our company. So the way that this oil is constructed, if you guys look at your spec and tech sheet, it covers nearly every European API certification as well as compatibility to domestics. So it works in Dexos 2 applications. It works, in your Ford applications, but also we have more European, I'm not sure if approvals is the right word, but compatibility, European compatibility to OEMs than Castrol, Mobil One, Amsoil, and you can pull this up on their websites. This is all public information. So all of a sudden, you have a product that is a premium synthetic, and we're talking phenomenal TFOUT ratings above and beyond the rest. Your NOAC is one of the lowest in the industry, which for those who don't know what NOAC is, it's your oil evaporation. So the lower the number, the better. And ours is actually industry leading. And so you're taking an extremely high quality oil that you're able to cover nearly everything on the marketplace because of how it's constructed. And now it's also eligible for roadside assistance. So now we have major things to be able to talk to our guys about.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Now, it seems to me that when it comes to oil, there's a lot of, I don't know, there's kind of like, it's almost like fandoms, that people have for certain types of oil. Did you meet a lot of resistance when you first started talking about it from the guys who are like, well, I'm a Mobil One only guy, or, I use Redline or whatever, you name it?
Oh yeah, that's going to happen because I had my pet oil, if you will, before coming on with BG, I had brands of choice that I liked, and I tell guys, here's the thing, I'm not here to take that business away. I want to show you what we can do with ours, and when the guys realize what they're actually getting, the decisions they already make the decision at that point. I have a shop that is a powerhouse Mobil One oil place, and we're very fortunate that here in Oklahoma City, the distributor was actually recently bought out by a company out of Texas. And again, I don't know the in-depth details, but I know that turnaround time is a huge issue. That's the feedback I've gotten from guys. And pricing, we're actually not that far off the beaten path for where pricing falls in place. So I told the guys, I'd ask guys, all right, question, what do you like about Mobil One? And everyone just says it's brand recognition, it's a high quality oil. Absolutely. I said, what if I could prove to you guys and show you that we actually have an oil that does across the board, and we're talking third party ASTM lab testing, beat it in every major category. And not to mention, you don't have to stock 15 varieties of it, because the way we construct this oil, it's going to cover nearly 90% of what comes into your shops. And of course, at that point, you have people's attention. How does that work? How are you able to do that? Absolutely, we go through and cover it. So and I tell guys, we're not getting rid of your Mobil One. Obviously, you're going to have customers coming in that request it. I don't want to upset customers. I want them coming back for services. But when I show you guys what you're able to achieve on your inventory control, on literally just ease of use, how many people have to run out because they ran out of 0W30 because they had a weird BMW roll in and they only had 5 of the 6 quarts needed. That eliminates this entire issue. And then all of a sudden, they can love a certain product so much, but when you talk about inventory consolidation, competitive pricing, and what it brings to the table, you have their attention because we address all those items.
Do you find that your European specialty shops are more open to these discussions or less?
Because we have the compatibility, they're actually very open to it. And in fact, my lube shops that have taken on this oil have done it to actually have one European oil that covers everything or nearly everything. There's obviously going to be some exceptions. So, for example, I've got a little European Mercedes-Benz specialist up in Edmond, and awesome guy. He's a young owner. I believe he's like 26 or 27 years old, just heart of gold, awesome guy. And he says, man, I'm getting killed with all these different viscosities. I have, this 030 for this 5W40 for that. And I'm having to buy it through parts stores. I can't keep pricing consistent. I said, man, I can help you with that. This is what I can bring to the table. And what I do is I'll bring a spec and tech form, and I'll also bring the most updated copy of our lab data. Shane and the guys do a phenomenal job at the labs. And what I do is I share that with them. I don't leave it because, again, out of respect for other companies, that's personal information. But I show them how we're able to achieve what we're doing and what I can do for the shop. I said, man, I can regulate your pricing. I can get stuff taken care of. And oh, by the way, your cars are eligible for roadside assistance. And especially anyone that's a European fanatic, believe me, that's a huge value. You'll use it. It's not if, it's when. You'll use roadside. So it's nice to have that ability to say, hey, if there's a mechanical breakdown, get it towed back to the shop. We got you covered. Let's see what's going on. So now you're bringing that customer back.
Now, how much? Where are your oil sales now, and where do you forecast them to be over the course of the next few months or a year or so?
Casey, I'll be honest, man. That's the one figure I have not completely dialed up yet. I know since the midpoint of the year, I was selling almost, I wouldn't say no oil, but I was selling minimal. We're talking gallons, maybe here and there for guys that just really love our products. And that's where I got my wheels turning. But I know since then, man, I'm trying to think. I'd have to say at least a dozen 53-gallon barrels, getting close to that number on kegs. And I can't even tell you the amount of gallons that we've sold. But there is a strategy behind how it's offered, because as reps, we're very programmed to have to live within certain margins, as any business owner does. You have your cost, you have your retail, you have to be able to build your business within a reasonable margin. And what we noticed, and myself and a couple other reps, is that this 737, or really any of our synthetic oils, may be the exception to the margin game. Because if we were to try to follow the same margin that we do in other stuff, there's no way we can be competitive. We can offer premium product, but to be competitive it's tough, because now you're pricing yourself extraordinarily high. So I did some thinking, I crunched some numbers, and I'm thinking to myself, okay, if I can take a shop that has, 20 different viscosities and types of oil and be able to consolidate it to maybe 2 or 3, or the majority being covered under 737, and I'll get into that on how we're able to do that. I'm building my frequency far further than where I'm not having to rely on margin to make up that difference. So if I'm capturing, say, 90% of the synthetic business at a shop, now I'm selling way more volume. So the presentation I put on for my counterparts, all my guys here at LSI, was a presentation on how to calculate not off margin, but off of volume. And so say you're capturing more of a shop's synthetic oil market. The way I set it up is the formula used, and again, we all have different formulas throughout the country, but long story short, on a 6-quart oil change, if they pull a drain plug on that, you're making, as a rep, between about $5 and $7 depending. And how we achieve that is price your oil so it's competitive. And obviously you have to make a little bit of money per quart. I mean, we're in business to do that, but you can do it by volume, because if you're capturing majority or all of their synthetic oil business by having one product that literally can do almost everything, you're now making that up in volume. And I'll tell you guys, auto pour MOA is the heart and soul. It's successful, but it is hard to do sometimes. But if you can introduce an oil where they're not having to stock crazy amounts of different viscosities, and now they're using yours as the primary, every time a car's drain plug gets pulled, you're making money on that, and there's no salesmanship involved. So now you've opened up a whole nother element to be able to say, all right, hey, this car, we had a 8-quart, Ford F-150 come in, and I try to price my stuff to make about, give or take, $1 a quart. Sometimes it's not possible. Sometimes it is. And again, you can do it with bulk oil, but if you're replacing, a 53-gallon barrel of oil every 2 weeks at a shop, that adds up pretty fast over the course of a year. And that's just one shop, never mind 3, 4, 5, 6 shops as people start using it more and more. So you are making up your difference, but you're giving them still a great pricing, which is actually competitive to the major brands.
Oh man, it's a great way of looking at it. And you're right. We do get into these, habits where we think of things only in terms of like margin, best possible commission, some of that type of stuff. The same kind of thing goes for transmission fluid. If you can get a shop to use a kit and a cube with every transmission service, maybe you're not making your full margin on that fluid, but it's an extra, 80 to 100 and some dollars in gross sales every time they do a transmission service. Nobody has to sell a single extra thing. And I mean, even if you're only making, $3 or $4, that's significant when you think about how many trans kits you sell in a lot of shops.
Absolutely.
Optimize your BG dollars per sales interaction by doing that stuff.
And the thing too, it's not. I never. You have to obviously consider your bottom line. You have to always consider margins. It's good business practice, but sometimes that kind of stuff is not the end of the road, if you will. You have to think creative outside the box. My biggest thing is, I wish I had a rep when I was managing the independent shop I was at up in Maine. I wish I had a rep that came in and said, "Man, I can simplify some stuff for you guys that's going to absolutely buy you more time. It's going to reduce errors because we have this to offer." All of a sudden, I don't really care so much about pricing. I mean, it's obviously a consideration, but it's not the end all. If I can get competitive and I'm dealing with a high quality product that I know is going to reduce. All right, did I put that right oil in that vehicle? Or, oh dang, did that Toyota take, can I use my cheap bulk stuff or do I have to use a specialty? If I can get rid of all those questions for guys and back it with a better protection plan because of what LPP has been able to do, talking transmissions now, we've established something in a shop that they may not have had before. And that's the magic about this. I tell guys, 312 is a phenomenal seller. I do a ton of 312 and also 314. But I tell guys, if they have, let's say Service Pro or whatever, an inexpensive entry level synthetic fluid for transmission, I tell guys here, I'm not here to take that business away from you guys. There's obviously there's a place for it in this market, but this is what we can do with our specialty fluid. And I tell guys, I'm not knocking any products. I don't believe in being unprofessional, but you have to be careful where that fluid goes in, because I'll tell you right now, you can't use that fluid in a 10-speed Ford. That fluid's not going to be able to be compatible on a 6-speed and up ZF application unless there's some specialty version of it. So I tell guys, look at their application guide and know it in and out. But this is what I can do with 312. So where you can't use that, this is where ours falls into place. So you're not having to go to the dealer and spending $18 to $24 a quart on OEM stuff because your house fluid doesn't cover it. I can fall into the $8 range, via cubes. I don't sell any loose quarts. I do cubes or barrels or kegs, and I can be highly competitive and also give a premium fluid to these guys without them having to go and spending 3 times the amount at the dealer for OEM stuff. And that opens up the conversation because they realize more and more that some of these, again, I'm not saying low quality, but these lower cost, multi ATFs are not covering everything that's coming into the door. So that's how I've gotten in to say, guys, we have this. And then a lot of people have said, you know what? I don't want to mess with it. I want one pricing. I want that as my primary ATF. And now all of a sudden vehicles are shifting better. We're fixing shuttering problems with vehicles. We're taking cars that they weren't sure if they're using the right fluid, and it's the right fluid every time, with, of course, a handful of exceptions. But we have application guides for that. So now what you've done is, instead of taking the role of the salesman, this is where you come in as a business consultant to say, hey, I have this to fill in this gap that they may not have realized they had. And that's the rest just builds off of that.
I find that the dealerships, especially in major metropolitan areas and stuff, they are inundated with people that want to come in and give them their 2 cents on how to run their store. There's just a myriad of people wanting to be a business consultant to those types of stores. But I've found that in the rural dealerships and small towns and things like that, and of course in the independents, there's not a lot of people out there showing them that kind of love. I mean, do you think that's true in your territory?
Yeah, I would say to a point. I mean, previous guys did great jobs with what they invested in. Obviously, they built it to that point. But I feel, especially in, we're talking Midwest America, man, the heartland, people are genuine. They're willing to listen when you come up to them to say, hey, I think I got something that might help you out, and just let them know that you're not trying to push cans, you're not trying to push your product, but you're trying to genuinely help their business with what they either already have or what they're missing. That's where I think people realize, hey, this guy's not out here to try to like force stuff down my throat and then get that one-time sale. He's actually here to try to help grow my bottom line. And more people than not are gonna pick up on that, because it's, guys, let me ask you, are you being genuine with your shops? When you're going into a shop, do you have a fear? Or is there something that's holding you back from being your genuine self? Talk to these guys like you do your friends. Maybe not the entire way. Obviously, you got to watch what you're saying, but try to be a friend to these guys and say, hey, this is my background, my experience. This is what I've noticed, and I'm here to help you guys out. I'm not here to peddle my program, but I want to make sure I'm doing the best for you guys. And when people realize that, hey, this guy's being genuine, he truly cares about the entire performance of our business, that's when relationships are made, and now those relationships become friendships. Something to kind of add on to this, my most successful training, hands down, that I've done with all my independent shops has very little to do with BG, but it ties BG into exactly what we're doing. And what I mean by that is a multi-point process training. I'll go into shops and, that we've, become friends. We become, very good, good relationship and partner. And they'll be like, hey, what are we doing wrong? What are we missing? Because they seem to be doing everything. I say, guys, I'm going to take my BG shirt off for a second, and I'm going to talk to you friend to friend and say, we have a process issue. And this is what I observed. This is what I've noticed. And just say, hey, you guys are doing everything right, but the order of which is being done, I think, is what's holding you guys back. Are you willing to try something I'm going to throw out there? More times than not, guys are going to be like, yeah, lay it on us. And I walk them through a multi-point inspection process. Anyone that's dealt with Ford, GM, any management success group, it's a very similar format on how the dealers and how the OEMs are doing their inspection processes, about having inspections back within 15 minutes to the advisors, about sitting down with the customer, giving them a copy of the multi-point. This all builds a certain psychology and a certain execution that if the guys follow every time, they will have greater successes selling everything, not just BG. We're talking, selling brakes, offering tires, but we come along for the ride. Brakes get done, a brake flush is getting sold. A repair for a water pump, they're going to be exchanging the fluid on the cooling system. When you build that kind of rapport to help their entire business, guys, believe me, you come along for the ride.
Yeah, and so more comprehensive recommendations that are coming out of the inspections. Now, the inspection process breakdown, do you find that it's typically happening in the back shop with how the tech is performing it, or maybe how fast he's performing, or does it have more to do with how the advisor is presenting those findings?
It's all the above. I'm trying to think the best way to put this. If you have one member of your team that's doing the right thing and the other that's not, your results are going to be the same. They're not going to achieve anything. So what I mean by that is, like, your advisor writes up a vehicle, let's say, or whoever does the write-up, and they get the work order ready. They get it out to the technicians, and that's oftentimes that's an issue. Technicians aren't getting their work orders in a timely manner. So what I do is I go in as part of that process training and say, all right, guys, hey, I'm going to spend some time with the back end and I'm going to spend some time with the front end, because I want you guys to work together on this, because this is, teamwork makes the dream work, and it's the God's honest truth. So what I'll do with the guys is go out. I'll start with the guys out back and say, let's do the inspection together, but let me show you an extremely efficient way to do it without cutting corners. So that way you can get this back to your advisor within about 15 minutes. The importance of having that back to the advisor at that time is, let's keep in mind a waiting customer. 15 minutes in, you've typically found, whatever you're looking at on your phone, you're watching a TV show, you found your comfortable spot in the waiting area. By having those results back to the advisors in that time, your opportunity is so much greater to close the sale because the customers are not expecting to leave 15 minutes in. If you present them with the findings at the end of the transaction, or say 45 minutes in, they're looking at their watches, they're ready to get out of there. They're thinking, okay, hey, Art, my car's done. Sweet, I'm getting close. Because that's just human nature and psychology. So I train the guys to do their multi-point inspections by starting off by doing your exterior walk around. You're checking a couple things on the inside of the car. You're looking at your oil change sticker. Phase one, that's just a recap of phase one. Phase two is all your underhood checks. And I always tell them, even if it's there for an oil change, you guys, you want to check oil level. You want to see how nasty and how dark it is. Does it smell like fuel? Are any of the fluids contaminated? Look at your mileage. Is the car out of warranty but eligible for LPP? Excuse me. These are all notes that I have the guys kind of consider on a little chart that I give them while doing training. And then phase three is when they put the car in the air and they do the underbody, suspension, brake check. And I tell guys, here's the thing. It's, you have to obviously check air pressure. You got to rotate tires. You got to top off, washer fluid. These are all items that will wait for sales time. Do this once you turn in your inspection, because these are things you have to do that only tie into your time on getting stuff done. So get your inspection done, turn into your advisor, and then go pull your oil, then go prep your oil bucket, do your rotation, your tire pressure check, because now you're working on salesman time, not your shop time, to get the odds and ends done. Now transition to the front real quick. So we've done the handoff from the service department to the advisor. That 15-minute window is so crucial to be able to talk to customers. And I tell them, don't do estimates. Don't do estimates, but have a game plan. Whether your technician stars or highlights your immediate safety items or not, I tell them, get a game plan in mind. We've touched upon the RIM method, talking about the repair, the immediate, and the maintenance, and I live by that. And I tell guys, you always want to talk safety first. If there's a safety issue with a car, BG can wait, but we want to tell people everything that we found. If I can tell anyone out there listening, the one rule you should always live by: never sell something a customer doesn't need. But if they need something, absolutely you have to tell them about it. It's the same level of ethics. It's the same morale. But what you're doing is you're establishing that balance. So when you're out there as an advisor getting ready to talk to your customer after 15 minutes after getting the inspection, come up with your game plan. Obviously talk about safety first, and you also want to highlight near future repairs. Okay, hey, we got brakes at 5 millimeters. They're not obviously due today, but it's going to be a near future item. And at that point, I'm tying in my maintenance to that brake job. So I'm going to go sit down, Mrs. Customer, I just want to let you know, hey, we're working on your vehicle. Thank you so much for waiting. Part of what we do is a safety inspection, because we're going to be the last people that touch your vehicle until your next service, and this is a courtesy that we do for our customers. My technician pointed out a couple things. I want to let you know, overall, everything looks great. You're taking great care of your car, but we do have a couple things that we want to just kind of mention to you, and that way you have something in writing. So let's say the car inspects well. There's no immediate needs, but we're sitting at 60,000 miles and it's a Ford, so it's just out of warranty. Hey, Mrs. Customer, I want to let you know everything checked out great. We do have a couple recommendations. We notice that you are just out of your factory warranty, and this is about the time that we're going to make recommendations to service your transmission, the rear axle of the vehicle, because these are items that have not been done to this point. Also, by doing them at this point in time, we're able to extend coverage on those components. And then, let's say the brakes are at 5 millimeters. Before jumping into maintenance, I'm going to say, everything's checking out great. A near future item that you're going to want to pay attention to is you're going to have brakes probably by the time you have your next oil change, or possibly the one after. I'm going to recommend doing pads and rotors, and also changing the brake fluid while we're there. Not something that has to be done today, but you do have some time to get this done. How do you want me to proceed? And ask them the buying questions. Let them, they may say, oh, you know what? If it's that close, get it done, knock it out, or hey, how much time do I have? What you're allowing and what you're creating is a budgetary situation. So say the customer, or ask them, hey, how do you want me to proceed? Or would you like me to put together an estimate for you? Now what you've done is you have reset the mental clock for that customer. So instead of them waiting to get, hey, I'm ready to get out of here, they're running finances through their head. Okay, he's going to make up an estimate. I wonder if, I'm able to pull this off. Do I have time to get this done? what you've done is you've reset the mental clock, and that's the most important part of it. So now you as an advisor can go back and you have time to do your estimates, time to, do what you need to. And I always tell people, do your estimates based on the RIM method. So when you go back, you can say, hey, these are our important items. These are our near future, and here's your maintenance. And then you can ask them, hey, do you want us to take care of anything while we're here? Do you want me to schedule? What you've done is you've created a much larger close rate. And shops that have adopted this philosophy have absolutely, since day one, seen the rewards of this because the communication's established differently.
Man, that's a great information. So to summarize what you've said here, you need to standardize and streamline the inspection process that the techs are going through.
Absolutely.
You need to follow like the quarter time rule of getting the inspection back in a timely manner to the advisor. The advisor needs to use the RIM method to present the findings of the inspection. Don't worry about estimates and things like that. Just get them to the customer immediately.
Yep.
Present everything that they found. And then from there, put it in the customer's lap to make a decision.
Exactly. And what you've done is you've completely streamlined your process. Let's transition back to the shop real quick. At this point in time, the advisors, or excuse me, the technician's going to be waiting for an answer on what's going on. So let's say, the oil was low. We recommended an EPR service. Typically, we'll have an answer for that fairly quickly. Say he reaches a point where you're still doing estimates, the cars in the bays. Hey, go grab another ticket, pull another car in, and then I'll have an answer for you, on this one here in just a minute. And what you're doing is you're maximizing your technician's efficiency because most guys are going to have more than one bay to work out of. And so that's the whole idea, is to streamline your entire process to be able to get more cars in and also be able to buy time on the sales floor to create that sale.
Now, there's a lot of BG reps out there, myself included, that have not worked in a dealership other than I did wreck a lot of cars as a porter.
Oh, no.
I've never worked in a situation where I've had to do inspections or, where I've had to write service and things like that. I mean, what if you're talking to a salesman that's just like, this feels so uncomfortable and out of my wheelhouse, I'm comfortable being a product expert, but getting into all these different processes and stuff, I don't know that I have credibility to stand on. I don't know that they're going to take me seriously. I mean, what encouragement would you offer that guy?
I would tell that guy, absolutely, it's okay. Because you know what? We all bring something separate to the table. But if you're able, say in your distributorship, you guys have a guy that did come from that background, man, take a little bit of time after sales meeting to actually watch what was done. Go to one of your dealers and watch how they do their process and learn the ins and outs on how they coordinate, because that's only going to help you as a rep. And believe me too, it's not an easy feat. Like you said, there's a lot of discomfort, there's a lot of uncertainty, but it's something I'm working on right now. And you know me, Casey, with my little projects, man, I love sharing stuff with guys throughout the country of what's worked and what hasn't. I love being able to share stuff that works. And what I'm doing right now is actually in the process of recreating a multi-point inspection form. It's our existing form that we've used for years, but it's actually set up in a workflow setup. So it's a flow chart is what it is. So you do this section first, this section, and it'll have cues on when you turn things in. So now we will have a little piece of ammunition I can share, whether it's a template, whether we end up making it. Either way, we have a template to be able to follow that inspection. And I tell guys, we do role playing. Absolutely practice it and work out the kinks. See what you think works best. Because if you can get really proficient in understanding bay flow operation, your entire business just changed, because you're able to speak their language on arguably the most sensitive thing in the industry, which is getting cars in and out in a timely manner.
That's a great idea. So the tool itself, the form, just the way it's set up, promotes proper service procedure.
Exactly.
Awesome. Man, there was one more thing that I wanted to talk to you about, because I found this to be a really interesting practice that you've created here. There's a lot of salesmen out there, and my new guy that I mentioned, he's got so many accounts, and he's in the process of weeding through them and figuring out who does what, who's open to new things, who's open to talking about a deeper relationship with us. But it's tough to manage a territory where you might have 100 or 150 accounts, and there's a lot of them out there.
Oh yeah.
You have figured out a way to, I guess, support that type of, management of that type of a territory by using constant contact.
Absolutely.
Can you talk about what constant contact is and how you've put it into use in your territory?
Absolutely. And actually, constant contact, and honestly, guys, even building a master Excel sheet, and I'll cover both those real quick. So what I did before constant contact, and I'll get into what it is I created an Excel sheet because I was that guy. I was that guy that inherited a lot of accounts, and everyone's on a different page on who's been selling what. So I was like, man, I got to find a way to organize my information, my data. So, I'd walk into my first store, and this created a ton of initial opportunity. I'd go in and say, hey guys, I'm Spiro, I'm your new rep, and this is my background, where I come from, and I'm here to help you guys out. How's all your machinery working? How's what's working, what's not for you guys? And what I'm doing is asking open-ended questions to be able to get the answers that I'm looking for. So ask the questions that you want the answers to. So guys will say, oh man, our power steering machine hasn't worked in a while, and I forgot to tell the previous rep. Hey, no problem. Let me make some notes on that. Speaking of which, do you have all the fittings that you need for your transmission machine? Oh, we haven't been able to do these Ford F-150s. Those dumb thermostats always get stuck. These guys are now giving you the answers to your estimates you're about to be able to provide them, and say, hey, if it's okay with you, let me get you guys a loaner machine for that power steering. Let me do some homework, and I'm going to go through your fittings to see what we might be missing, because I can promise you we've probably had a couple updates on some of these fittings that will actually allow you guys to do these services so much easier. Would that be cool with you if I see what we're missing and get back to you? They're not going to say no to you. They already have the machinery there, and now all of a sudden you're able to go through, you're learning the machinery to see what's missing. And what you're doing is creating and setting the table to demo what you're presenting to them. For example, a Ford F-150 fitting. So what I would do with my accounts is I would write down, on a fresh piece of paper, all right, they have this machine, this machine, this machine, this machine's missing this, these are missing these fittings. And then I would go through and verify everything on their route card. Some guys will work off of like a min-max. Some guys just call in orders, and I would ask them, hey, what works best for you? Do you want me to set up a scheduled time? What do you want me to set for a max level? And just tell them, I never want to overstock you guys, but I want to make sure you have everything you need to be able to sell before I see you in, say, 2 weeks or whatever the frequency is. So what you've done is you've asked 5 or 6 questions that have literally answered almost everything you need to get started. So I already know they have a PF5. I already know that they have an air fuel induction tool, a canister. So which probably has, a busted clamp. It probably has a busted gauge. Chances are the nozzle is the old style. These are all things that you can pay attention and present to them and say, hey, I noticed that we needed this and this. This will update your machine so you guys are updated, ready to go. Let me know if I can get that stuff coming. And on this Excel sheet that I used, I would track everything. So I would know if they had this, custom adapter or this thing. And that helped me pick up where I've left off when I visit an account, because I'm not double handling stuff. Where constant contact came into play, and you guys, if you've been looking at an email service of any kind, ask Kelly Fitzpatrick, another one of our reps, ask Dave Disco, Brian Parker. These guys have all adopted it. It is going to completely change your communication platform. And what it is, it's a program that allows you to gather the data of your shop, your guys, emails, whatever, and create mailing lists. So, for example, we just had an update to MOA recently. We had the new color change, the updated formulation. So I literally copied and pasted off of our rep news, created a custom flyer that took me maybe 15 minutes to put together, put on a couple items on there that I want them to know about. And I built a series of mailing lists on Constant Contact that I want certain guys to get or some not to get. And I send it out to my shops. And what it does is it's a super quick, effective way to reach out and communicate to my shops. Hey guys, this color change is coming. Don't freak out if you see MOA look different. Hey, by the way, we're getting ready to ramp up on Platinum Tool Services. We're doing a promo this month. Let me know if you're interested. And it's just a basic newsletter covering 2 or 3 things that all my shops see. And I can't even tell you guys the success that's come out of that. Oh yeah, man, I heard about that. We want to see this. I've probably sold maybe 5 or 6 Platinum Tools just off the last newsletter that went out, because guys were able to see what I'm talking about, versus cold calling, hoping that you're catching them at the right time. How many times have you guys gone to a shop and it's a fire drill and you can't spend 2 seconds with the owner or the manager because they're busy? This allows them to look at what you're sending, and now you have something, a warm lead to follow up on. And that's what constant contact allows us to do, is send out that warm lead, that notification. And I have an average of about a 76% open rate. So I'm pretty happy with that. The industry standard is 11%. I'm getting about 76% the way I have my stuff set up, because it's coming from me directly. So now I'm establishing a more effective communication platform, as well as something to follow up with when I go to that shop and say, oh, hey, did you see the newsletter? I was talking about the changes to MOA. Just want to make sure you got that. I know who's opened it and who hasn't. So when they say, oh, no, I haven't seen that, now they open up the newsletter. I tell them they pull up their email. Oh, hey, what's this platinum deal that you're talking about? Boom. I've got a warm lead into a service at this point. So that's the power and the beauty of tracking what's already there, but also being able to control what you're sending out to your guys to create further opportunity for them and yourself.
So in the last episode, about social media, we talked about using that as a platform to be present in your stores even when you're not present. So this is a tool with a similar sort of goal in that way, but it's also something that could lead directly to sales on a regular basis.
Absolutely. And guys, social media, I can't stress enough, create a business page, get on there, add people. And the reason why, and I don't use that per se to promote products. I tried that for a while. It didn't go over well. Use that to give your guys the spotlight. Hey, we just did a transmission, seminar over at Joe Bob's, Quick Lube, whatever the scenario. And just what you do, take pictures of their building, take pictures of the machine hooked up, the before and after, and post it on Facebook, and then share it on your personal page. And what you're doing is you're showing the world, hey man, I care about these guys. We spent some time there. These guys do a great job with services. I want to promote what you guys are doing. And I've got about 4,000 give or take people on my personal page, about I think 600 on my business page, and I share stuff through different shops. But also what that does is not only shows the gratitude for, hey guys, thanks for doing business, but it's also exposing everybody. Hey, oh, those guys sell those services, or hey man, this guy's willing to put a whole article on Facebook for doing a demo. But other shops are seeing this. Other technicians from other shops are like, oh man, I didn't know those guys did that. Why aren't we doing that? I can't tell you how many times I've gotten text messages saying, hey, I saw that thing that you guys posted. Dynamic, especially guys, Dynamic Engine Service. You want to sell a couple kits, do a couple before and afters on Facebook, and I can promise you that floodgate opens, because guys are like, I need to know what that is, because we've had scenarios where we could have used that. Next thing you know, you're going in, you're showing the guys, and that opportunity has been created. Social media, constant contact for mail management, and use a great Excel format to track where you've left off. Those 3 things will literally accelerate everything you guys are doing in your territories.
Man, I think when I sit back and think about, all the different feedback I've gotten over these past, 6 episodes about what people are doing in the field that are successful and what's working for them and stuff, I think the underlying message is be organized, think outside the box. If you're just driving around in a van and you formulate your plan for that stop right before you step out of the truck, you're just not going to be as successful as you could be. So these are ways to maximize your time, maximize your effectiveness, and portray yourself as more of a professional to your customers, instead of just, oh, so-and-so, the guy that picks up the rugs and cleans our uniforms. It's a different type of persona that you're showing your customers.
It is, man, but also not just being the best that you can be for your guys, but you're also making your life way easier in the process. Um, we can all vouch for this. Every single one of us, from the top guy in the company to the guy at the very end. It's so hard to pick up where you've left off if you are not organized and you don't track what you've talked to people about. There's nothing worse than handling something twice, because it's a professionalism thing, but it also, how can you maximize how effective you are? And that's why, guys, I encourage any means of organization, and use whatever you can. Get information from the top producing guys, the guys with great growth percentage. They're obviously doing something that's directly impacting their business. And believe me, when I say shops talk to each other, they do. They definitely talk. Hey, why is he doing that? Or hey, my new BG rep, man, I like this guy. He's here to help, get us fired up, and he wants to help grow our whole business. Believe me, word of mouth travels, man. It really does. And that's going to create more warm leads and more credibility when you go into shops. So if you're cold calling a shop, you're going in because you were sent there by that guy's buddy. Or if you're going into a shop that hasn't done much, to say, hey, here's a new twist on things, you guys. Here's a little something that you may not have had in the past, but I want to bring a little something extra to the table because I value you guys as a customer, and I want to help you grow your entire business as your BG guy. And next thing you know, your recommendations moving forward have far more impact than just saying, hey, you need to sell 44K because it's good to people, good for cars. Now it's like, hey, this is something I think is going to help you guys out. And now they're willing to listen. And that's the difference maker.
Well, Spiro, man, I really appreciate you being on. It took us a few months of playing phone tag to get this,
It did.
to get this recorded. But, and also wanted to say congratulations. Spiro here's a brand new daddy.
Thank you, man. Thank you.
Congrats. What's your son's name?
Zane.
Zane.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Congratulations, man. That's exciting.
Thank you. Yeah, he's not scheduled for his first demo for quite a while, but he'll get there.
And for the people listening that want to connect with you, what's your Facebook page and stuff? How do they find you?
Absolutely, guys. So the business page is BG Spiro OKC. So BG SPIRO OKC. And then you guys will see my personal page on there as well. And it's just my first and last name, Spiro Morogiannis. And guys, if you want ideas, by all means, add me on Facebook. The bigger the network, the better, man. We can learn so much from each other. I talk to Fitz a lot. I talk to a lot of different guys at different territories and distributors about sharing ideas, because if there's something that one guy has that's working well, guys, I want you to run with it. Try it out, because chances are if it's working for one guy, it's going to work for you to a point, and that we can help each other grow just such an amazing thing by just taking that little extra effort and running with it.
Well, thanks a lot for all the insights, Spiro, and we need to do this again at some point.
Yeah,
let's look at maybe late spring or something like that.
I look forward to that.
All right, man. Well, have a good one.
You as well. Thank you so much.